In 1860, cotton made up more than half of America's trade. They called it white gold. It built marble halls, mirrored ballrooms, and velvet-draped parlors. But when the war ended, ledgers lay half-filled. Names were struck through, debts erased. What else vanished in silence? A trunk sealed in satin, a snuffbox at auction, a portrait unnamed. Between 1800 and 1865, cotton wealth built empires across the Mississippi, but fortunes disappeared as quickly as names. When marble halls echoed, what else was erased from history? Welcome to history's ledger. Cotton was called white gold. It built marble staircases, mirrored ballrooms, and parlors dressed in velvet and lace. Its wealth flowed across oceans, filling ships bound for Liverpool and Havre, until the South believed the empire would never break. But the truth of the Cotton Empire is not only written in profit and splendor, it is written in the ledgers where names are struck through, in trunks never claimed, in portraits sold without sitters. This is not the story schools often teach. It is the story of satin-lined boxes, silver snuff boxes sold at auction, gowns folded away with initials no one explained. A story of fortunes measured in luxury, and of silences measured in absence. So let us turn the page together. Let us walk the halls where chandeliers once blazed, and open the ledgers where the ink has faded. What remains is not just wealth, but the silence it left behind. In the spring of 1865, only weeks after the surrender at Appomattox, Rosemont stood in complete stillness. Shutters drawn, gates rusted, magnolia petals drifting down, the front steps, like soft, white confetti, left behind from a celebration that never truly ended. Inside, behind velvet curtains yellowed by sun, the parlor remained untouched. The furniture sat as it had on the night of its final gala, February 3rd, 1862, preserved not by care, but by abandonment. And near the far wall, beneath a cracked mirror that no longer reflected clearly, stood a cedar trunk, large, satin-lined, faintly scented with jasmine and cedar, its leather handle worn smooth, and its clasp tied with a ribbon, white thread forming the initials, CV. There was no key, and no one ever came to claim it. By 1860, cotton made up more than half of America's exports, nearly $200 million that flowed through ports bound for Liverpool and Havre, building an empire of chandeliers, ivory fans, Venetian mirrors, and gowns that shimmered beneath ceilings 20 feet high. Southern wealth wasn't measured in coin, but in what coin could summon. Wallpaper from Lyon, snuff boxes from Paris, silk corsets from New York. Ledgers listed not only cotton bales, but inventories of silver teaspoons and monogrammed porcelain. But after the war, something shifted. Debts faded. Names vanished. Some objects disappeared from the record entirely, like the trunk in Rosemont. It appears once, a margin note in an 1859 inventory, now kept by the Natchez Historical Trust. One trunk prepared for CV, embroidered ribbon, fastened, contents unsorted. There is no follow-up, no destination, no death record, no marriage, no will. Only a pair of initials and a house that stopped mentioning her. Was she a daughter of the house? A guest who left no return address? A figure lost between roles, one the ledger was never meant to record? A Charleston record lists 5 trunks evacuated before Sherman arrived. 4 are catalogued line by line. The 5th reads, Trunk 5, no record, personal, not for accounting. There's a photo, sepia-toned, circa 1866. The Rosemont parlor appears untouched. In the corner, beneath the broken mirror, the trunk is visible. Ribbon intact. The photographer left no comment, but the object remains, not hidden, just unacknowledged. What does the sealed trunk hold? Velvet gloves, a lock of hair, a Bible without inscription, a fan of rosewood and gold leaf, letters tied in silk ribbon, a pressed lily, not guesses, patterns, found in trunks across Natchez, New Orleans, Savannah. In one, opened in 1893, they found corsets, a lavender sachet, and a flower, perfectly pressed. In another, silk slippers, ledgers, a single line, handwritten. The silk arrived. But she did not. There is a language to silence, not spoken, but folded, lined in satin, closed with intent. Cotton paid for the frame, the mirror, the chandelier, the staircase, but behind it, someone is always missing. Someone who lived in the space just outside the record's reach. This story does not begin in the fields. It begins in a room, not with a name remembered, but with one half written, then erased. The trunk remains sealed, but its silence is not. The ledger was thick, its spine cracked and corners curled, its pages discolored from years of dust and damp. Pressed flat by an elbow, ink-stained fingers once moved across its lines by candlelight. On the inside cover, only one inscription appears in looping cursive, account of cotton receipts, Natchez District. Beginning, Anno 1858. No owner, no crest, no signature. At first, it reads like business. Cargo, shipments, destinations. Liverpool, Charleston, Boston. But by page 73, something shifts. Beneath a list of exports, one to Havre, another to New York, a red line strikes through an entry. Trunk 5, marked personal, not to be counted, assigned to CV, no inventory, no value, and no follow-up. Why strike out what was never priced? And who, again, was CV? In the decades before the war, cotton wasn't just a crop. It was strategy, spectacle, and leverage. By 1860, it accounted for more than half of US exports. building not only wealth, but the illusion of permanence. Mansions rose from its profits. The Mississippi Delta became a kingdom of rosewood desks, crystal decanters, mirrored parlors, and imported wallpaper. And every plantation ledger became both financial record and cultural mirror. Yet not every line survived. One Charleston log from 1861 lists 10 crates of porcelain and 18 trunks labeled Private Ladies' Parlor, followed by a note. Boxes 3 and 4 never arrived. Shipment disputed. Later, it simply adds, portraits removed to attic. Final count unclear. House evacuated inventories, once obsessive, began to fracture. Names vanished. Bibles turned up in barns. Portraits sold without labels. Letters burned or left unread. Ledgers became unstable, inconsistent, anonymous, often revised mid-page. And not all of it was accidental. These households tracked detail with astonishing care. Silver weighed by ounce, carpets logged by thread count, velvet recorded by country of origin. In one Vicksburg estate, the lady of the house documented 8 corsets, 6 from France, 1 lined with whalebone, each noted with purchase date and seamstress. But those same ledgers leave little trace of the hands that washed the gowns, arranged the garments, or folded the linens. When names appear, they're often shortened: Eliza, M, CV, or replaced with function, companion, girl, assigned. In many cases, the record cuts off mid-line. In one New Orleans ledger, a note appears beside a shipment of perfume. Eliza, assigned to house. Linen duty. Perfume arrived April 4th. And after that, nothing. The deeper you read, the more deliberate the gaps feel. Blank weeks, blotted lines, trunks marked, received, not opened. The silence isn't just oversight, it's architecture. The cotton gin, patented in 1793, made cotton explosively profitable. By 1860, the enslaved population had grown from 700,000 to nearly 4 million. Every bale shipped wasn't just commodity, it carried lives with it, uncounted but essential. In one Baton Rouge record, a planter notes 63 bales shipped to Savannah. Below, written in different ink, 1 gown returned, 1 bottle broken, 1 girl missing. No elaboration, just a page turned. Perhaps that gown was packed in the trunk marked for CV. Perhaps that girl was the one never entered in full. Luxury survived, but names often didn't. The empire was measured in tonnage, linen, crystal, and crimson ribbon. But its memory rests in what was crossed out, left unsigned, or wrapped in initials too faint to trace. Beneath the weight of cotton, something was always missing. By the summer of 1866, the war had ended, but the mansions that lined the Mississippi remained quiet, their windows shuttered, their staircases collecting dust instead of footsteps. Riverboats passed without stopping. Flags changed. But the air inside those homes felt older than victory or defeat. In Natchez, at Myrtle View, the front rooms were open to visitors, staircases admired, molding praised. Yet one door stayed locked for 40 years. The widow who owned the home refused to enter it. She died in 1904. The door wasn't opened until 1911. Inside, preservationists found a drawing room suspended in time. A brocade settee sat beside a marble hearth. A cracked piano waited in silence. And in the center of the rug stood a cedar trunk, lined in velvet, its brass dulled, its lock rusted shut. The ribbon stitched around its clasp bore two faint initials, a B. No ledger ever listed it. No relative ever came to claim it. Myrtle View was not unique. Across Louisiana, Georgia, Mississippi, homes that once echoed with music now held their breath. Mirrors still hung in ballrooms. Chandeliers glittered above empty floors. But the names had faded. The dance cards were blank. And rooms were sealed not by accident, but intention. At Stanton Hall, Natchez's grandest mansion, the final ball was held on April 2nd, 1862. Guests danced beneath mirrored ceilings and French chandeliers. The estate ledger reads only, candles burned low, dance completed, then nothing. Farther south, Nottaway Plantation once kept meticulous inventories of its valuables, silver, tapestries, glassware, but the list ends abruptly at 2 trunks of heirlooms sent to private quarters. No return record, no inventory. In Charleston, a 3-story home on East Bay Street hid its attic behind plaster for over 40 years. When finally uncovered, a dozen crates stood unopened. They were labeled simply, property of M.E. Inside, letters with names torn off, ledgers labeled confidential, and a page that read, "The girl is gone. Do not ask again." Some rooms were never meant to be entered again. In Alabama, a nursery was found behind a boarded wall. A cradle sat empty. The chair beside it still rocked. Beneath a lace pillow, a note read only, R.S. Sunday. No birth record, no baptism, no explanation. Luxury had once been measured down to the thread. Corsets ordered by style and seamstress, petticoats noted by fabric and trim. But post-war ledgers grew vague. Names turned to initials. Inventories ended in single words. Removed. Private. Delayed. The architecture remains. Ceilings painted with angels now sag with humidity. Floors scuffed by slippers creak beneath silence. Rugs wear into bare boards, and trunks remain sealed, not forgotten, but untouched. These houses were not destroyed. They were preserved through a mission, their silence curated, their rooms locked by choice. Not ruins, museums of the unspoken. And somewhere within them, beneath a staircase or behind a wardrobe, waits a ribbon stitched with initials, sealed inside a trunk no one wants to explain. Would you open it? Or would you close the door, let the house breathe dust, and walk away? Not every name fades with time. Some are erased on purpose. In the archives of Charleston, an estate ledger dated 1858 is wrapped in crimson ribbon, its pages lined with cargo lists and household inventories. Most entries are exact, full names, values, destinations. But midway through, a page has been removed. The next entry is marked only corrected ledger delivered. Original no longer available. That missing page had once listed 3 trunks, one labeled simply CV, Silk, Personal. That entry is now gone. Across the South, the pattern repeats. Ledger books that once recorded everything down to teaspoons begin to fracture. Surnames are omitted. Some entries collapse into initials: maid, coach girl, companion. Some are crossed through entirely. Others just stop. In a Savannah inventory from 1861, 5 portraits are listed as recovered. 4 are named. The 5th is not. Female subject, no plate. The margin notes: possible CV, unsure. To be stored. That's how most disappearances begin. Before the war, plantation ledgers were obsessive, part legal contract, part cultural theater. They listed weights of cotton, French perfume shipments, Brussels lace, the width of rugs, the thread count of linens, and the origin of corsets. But when it came to the people closest to those objects, those who touched them, packed them, wore them, folded them, the record falters. The names first shortened, then disappeared. Middle initials were dropped. Titles were erased. What had once read Eliza Vaughan became EV, and then nothing at all. In a Louisiana ledger dated 1862, one page is violently slashed with ink. Beneath the diagonal strokes, faded handwriting remains. Eliza Vaughan, 17, laundry. M, dressmaker. Pearl comb received. CV, music room, trunk delivered. All 3 lines erased. At the bottom, these names no longer reflect the estate. Were they sold, disowned, hidden, protected? No one says. Auction books deepen the silence. One Charleston sale from 1867 lists a velvet box of jewelry with no owner and a miniature portrait. No name, no buyer, initials on the back. CV, a snuffbox turns up in London. Georgian silver, faint initials nearly polished away. No origin, no provenance. The catalogue offers only Southern anonymous. A Paris brooch, a Boston gown, an envelope tucked in the lining, returned to sea. No address. These objects move through time, but names fall away. You can follow the traces, the teacups, the portraits, the trunks. Some are in museums now, marked unknown. Some were buried in cellars. Some drift through private hands with no story attached. And in the ledgers, the very documents designed to preserve legacy, the red ink runs deeper than the black. In one 1859 plantation account, 4 trunks are listed by initials. CV appears last. The note reads, "Sent upriver. No inventory." 2 pages later, in another hand, "She did not arrive." Was it loss? Was it refusal? We don't know. All that remains are fragments, ribbon-stitched names, torn margins, and ledgers that end with silence. Would you keep reading, knowing each page may lead to another blank? Or would you close the book and let it fade again? By the autumn of 1865, Natchez had become a city of sealed parlors and rooms left paused mid-scene, dining tables still set, glasses untouched, trunks waiting beneath windows that no longer opened. Rosemont stood among them, its shutters drawn, its garden overgrown, and in the parlor, a cedar trunk sat just beyond the reach of light. The trunk was large, its surface darkened by river air, the satin lining quilted in pale cream. The brass clasp had dulled to a matte glow. The ribbon at its lock was still tied, its stitching faint but legible. CV, no inventory ever detailed it. The estate ledger notes it once in 1859. 1 trunk, private, contents unsorted. After that, the record falls silent. Stories circulated. Some believed it held jewelry hidden from federal troops. Others whispered it contained letters, debts, or something even less explainable. One Union officer claimed to have glimpsed inside, gowns folded in tissue, gloves stitched with Parisian lace, a sealed box tucked between them. But he left no affidavit, only a recollection, half remembered and never confirmed. The trunk was never opened in public. It was never removed. It was not claimed during estate dispersals or divided among heirs. It simply remained. Unlike so many others, this one was untouched not by accident, but by choice. At Stanton Hall, 2 crates labeled private were never auctioned, though every other item was listed piece by piece. In Charleston, a sealed velvet case held opera glasses with no name, 1 lens cracked, wrapped in fabric now dust. At Nottoway, the silver was sold, but the trunk marked heirlooms was left behind. What these objects share is not extravagance, it's a mission. The trunk from Natchez wasn't meant for travel. It was padded, ribboned, closed with care, perhaps not to preserve something valuable, but to bury something personal. It had the weight of memory, not cargo. Luxury often outlasts context. The gown loses its owner. The ribbon keeps its initials, but not the name behind them. Objects like these drift further from meaning with each year, until what they contain becomes less significant than what they refuse to explain. The most haunting detail is not the trunk itself, but its absence from the record. A single line, then nothing. A name reduced to 2 letters. A container built to protect, left behind as if no one wanted to know what remained inside. Would you force it open? Would you unravel what someone chose to leave closed? Or would you let it sit where it has for over a century, ribbon intact, mystery sealed, and silence more eloquent than anything that could be found inside. By 1867, the war had ended, but the disassembly of the Cotton Empire had only begun. The mansions were still standing, but their contents, the mirrors, the portraits, the silver and silk, passed not through inheritance, but through auctions. Grand parlors became sales rooms. The voice of the auctioneer replaced the sound of music and prayer. In Charleston, one estate catalogue survives. Thin ink on coarse paper, listing candlesticks, gowns, and porcelain, most tied to names. Mrs. Fairchild's parlor set, Randolph family silver. But halfway through, 3 lots appear without attribution. 1 velvet box, jewelry. 1 portrait, subject unidentified. 1 trunk, marked CV, contents sealed. No buyers are recorded. The page ends with a smudge. In Boston, decades later, a rose-colored gown trimmed in Paris lace appears in an attic sale. No. In its pocket, a folded envelope with a pressed violet and the inscription, "Return to sea." It was preserved with the gown. No explanation followed. In London, a Georgian snuffbox surfaced, silver, initials nearly worn away. The auction house noted only Southern origin, no provenance, no background, sold to a collector. Untraceable now, except for a brief catalogue line. These auctions were arithmetic. For creditors, they settled columns of debt. For families, they fragmented lives. A brooch passed without a name. A portrait moved from ballroom to attic to gallery, stripped of its sitter. A trunk stood on a platform labeled private, never opened, sold as is. The Cotton Empire depended on silence as much as export. When the field stopped producing and ledgers lost balance, dignity was preserved by severing memory from object. Items moved anonymously, stripped of context, reduced to ornament. Some artifacts traveled north to Boston, New York. Others crossed oceans to Paris, London. Some reached museums. Others vanished into basements, pawn shops, or private parlors. What remains are scattered traces: a silk hem with initials, a ribbon inside a box, a painted ivory miniature marked unknown. Each auction echoed what the ledgers had already begun: the erasure of names, the soft redaction of people, the quiet dismantling of a world built on memory too fragile to be kept. Would you follow these objects, tracing them across decades and oceans, knowing they carry more silence than story? Or would you let them rest, mystery intact, never claimed? In 1861, as the Union blockade tightened, an estate ledger in Charleston recorded the evacuation of valuables: porcelain from Canton, Venetian mirrors, a harp boxed in linen, and 7 family portraits wrapped in oilcloth. 6 of those portraits survive today, each hung in gilt frames, their subjects labeled fathers, mothers, daughters in satin and pearls. The 7th has no name, Its ledger entry reads only, "Portrait, female, no inscription." When it resurfaced decades later in a small sale outside Savannah, the auctioneer described it simply, "Woman in ivory silk, face turned away." The painting was still in its original laurel carved frame, though chipped. On the back, in pencil, barely visible, were the letters CV. The woman's face was unfinished, or perhaps blurred by time. The pearls at her throat were sharp, the folds of her gown precise, but the identity was absent, not lost by accident, but left unrecorded. The 6 other portraits tell complete stories. The fathers signed land deeds. The daughters married into other houses. Their names appear in letters, wills, marriage contracts. The unnamed woman appears nowhere else. There are hints. A line in the Charleston Mercury mentions a young woman sent to Paris in 1857 for her health. Another estate letter notes a trunk stored in the attic, marked private. After 1862, no mention of her appears again. Luxury is supposed to preserve memory. Gowns, mirrors, portraits, all intended to fix someone in place. But when a name is erased, even silk and gold cannot hold the person. Was she disowned? Was she hidden? Or was she meant to vanish? This portrait was not simply forgotten, it was allowed to fade. Would you hang it on your wall, knowing the name would never return? In 1859, visitors to Rosewood Hall in Natchez described its library as a temple of learning. 2,000 volumes lined the walls, bindings imported from London and Paris, their spines gleaming under gaslight. The scent was polished wood, wax, and leather inked in Latin and French. But when Union soldiers entered in 1863, they found no readers, only dust. Books lay open, ledgers scattered across desks. One volume, propped beside a globe, bore a single note in pencil. Private volumes, CV, not for circulation. Most Southern libraries were curated more for appearance than use. Rows of travelogues and classics, unopened sets of Shakespeare still sealed at the edges. The image mattered, literacy as architecture. But behind the illusion, silence pressed in. Still, some volumes reveal traces of presence. At a plantation near Vicksburg, a worn copy of Virgil's Aeneid held faint notations in the margins, half calculations, initials, sketches of thread patterns. In another house, a French Bible was discovered wrapped in cloth. No name. The pages warped with moisture, the stitching loose but still intact. Luxury failed to protect memory. Books shipped at great cost sat unopened. Silk-bound journals yellowed in sealed drawers. In the quiet after war, the dust became more honest than the shelves. Sometimes the silence cracks. In Charleston, a volume of Shakespeare held a hidden ledger sewn into its spine. Debts noted in the back. The final entry, trunk, CV, private. Do not open. Why bind it inside a play? What was so dangerous about those initials? Books outlive the rooms they were meant to impress, but they did not forget. Ink faded, pages curled, but fragments endured. Would you open one of these books today, knowing your hands might be the first in a century? And if the name inside was one you'd seen before, initials only, faint but familiar, would it feel like discovery or warning? In 1861, a Charleston ledger recorded a shipment of 10 crates of porcelain bound from Havre, France. Blue willow pattern edged in gold, marked for Fairchild Hall, for the dining room, expected by June. That June came and went. War had begun. The crates never arrived. By September, the same ledger held a diagonal annotation. Shipment disputed. 2 crates not recovered. Insurer declined claim. In the dining room, the long mahogany table still stretches 30 feet. High-backed chairs remain. Candlesticks stand polished. But where the porcelain should have gleamed in candlelight, there is only linen. The silence at that table is not poetic, it is structural. Across the south, fragments still surface. In Natchez, blue patterned shards lie buried in garden beds. In Savannah, a single plate was found in a crate beneath a staircase. The linen around it turned to dust. No explanation why one dish remained while the rest vanished. In Mobile, a planter's wife wrote in her 1862 diary, "The china has not come. We dine from pewter. I cannot bear it." That wasn't vanity. It was disorientation. In these households, luxury was not indulgence. It was identity. What happened to those crates? Lost at sea? Shattered in some port warehouse? Or tucked away, never unpacked, never claimed? The tension lives not in what was destroyed, but in what was promised and never delivered. Would you search for the porcelain now? Dig through cellars and crates of dust, hoping for gold-rimmed edges beneath the dirt? And if you found them, would it feel like history or interruption? At Stanton Hall in Natchez, built in 1857 at staggering cost, the ballroom was once the most dazzling in the Mississippi Valley, its mirrored walls multiplying candlelight into constellations, chandeliers imported from Paris throwing reflections over marble floors, and the air dense with perfume, beeswax, and the faint trace of tobacco smoke from cut glass pipes. Music floated from a harp near the corner. Gowns rustled in silk and taffeta. Violin bows drew out laughter. The mirrored walls shimmered with movement. The floor glowed in waxed crescents from slippers. And then, in April 1862, it stopped. The estate ledger recorded one final line. Dance completed. Candles burned low. After that, nothing. Walk into the ballroom today, and you can still feel it. The mirrors remain, but their silver has begun to bloom and flake. The chandeliers hang above, but their prisms scatter only dust. The marble creaks under your step, as if still remembering weight and rhythm. The harp is gone, but the corner holds its shape. Across the south, Ballrooms shared the same fate. Nottoway Plantation's grand hall, once lit by silk-shaded lamps and lined with champagne trays, was requisitioned by troops in 1863. The records didn't describe the damage, they simply stopped counting. In Charleston, the Aiken-Rhett House kept its ballroom sealed until the 20th century. When opened, candle stubs remained fused to floorboards. A violin lay against the wall, its strings snapped, its bow broken. Luxury did not disappear in fire. It remained, waiting, silenced. What is a ballroom without music? A chandelier without names beneath it? Or would you leave the candles cold, preserving the pause forever? In 1867, a silver snuffbox appeared in a London auction. The listing was brief: Georgian, silver, faint monogram, Southern origin. No name, no provenance. In the margin, scribbled in pencil and barely legible, said to have come from Natchez, initials CV. It was small enough to fit in a palm, yet weighty with vanished context. Imagine its first life, passed from hand to hand during candlelit conversations, carried in silk-lined pockets, its lid snapping shut with practiced rhythm. The tobacco would have smelled of cloves and lavender, the silver warmed by the touch of fingers now forgotten. How did it get to London? Some trunks left Natchez under moonlight, ferried upriver ahead of Union troops. Others were surrendered to auction houses, traded in back rooms, or sent east to settle debts no one wanted documented. The snuffbox might have crossed the Atlantic hidden in a crate marked private, its initials already fading. In time, its purpose evaporated. It was sold not for what it meant, but for what it was: silver, anonymous. Many objects followed the same trail: a sapphire brooch in Paris, no origin attached; a miniature portrait in Boston labeled unknown sitter; a rosewood fan auctioned with the note, handle inscribed, name illegible. These were not just items, they were fragments, the things that remained after the names were erased. Luxury endures, context does not. If you held that snuffbox now, initials nearly gone, silver cool in your hand, would it feel like a story waiting to be told? Or just another object stripped clean by time? Would you open it, or let it stay sealed, as it has for over a century? And if these fragments moved you, if you see what they're pointing to, then keep turning the pages with me. Like this story if its silence said something to you. And if you want to keep exploring these forgotten ledgers with me, subscribe, so the next chapter waits on your doorstep when it arrives. In a house outside Savannah, preservationists opened a cedar trunk, sealed since 1864. Inside, beneath gloves gone stiff with time and gowns folded in brittle tissue, they found a bundle of letters tied with ribbon. The wax seals remained unbroken. Each envelope bore only a first name, no address, no return mark, no cancellation. The handwriting was deliberate, careful, but none of them had ever been sent. The attic air was thick with heat and dust, the kind that settles over decades without stirring. Paper cracked softly at the edges when touched. One letter bore a faint pressed flower, the imprint still visible, though the petals had dissolved. Another was dated 1862, its ink browned, the wax seal faded to a ghost of red. Why were they never mailed? Were they declarations of love? Farewells? Instructions meant only for eyes that never returned? Some bore initials, others offered no name at all. Whatever they said, their silence was intact. Elsewhere, more letters surface, always unsent. In Charleston, a desk opened in 1908 revealed 3 folded sheets tucked beneath shipping ledgers. Each was unsigned, the phrases faint through the creases. Wait by the river. Send word when it is safe. In Natchez, behind bricks in a fireplace, a packet of European envelopes was discovered. The stamps bore no cancellations. Were they returned unopened, or never posted at all? Letters like these were not lost. They were withheld, folded, sealed, deliberately left behind. Imagine the moment. A woman seated at a writing desk, candle burning low, the sound of horses in the street below. She folds the page, melts wax, presses her seal, then stops. The letter is placed in a drawer, and there it waits. To find such a letter today is to hold the decision someone never made. Would you open one? Would you break the seal? Or would you return it to the trunk, untouched, the silence preserved? After the war, not every house was burned. Many remained standing, their brick facades and wrought iron gates unchanged. But inside, the air shifted. Parlors fell quiet, staircases warped, curtains yellowed where sunlight pushed past shutters that no longer opened. In one Natchez estate, a visitor in 1871 wrote of a hallway lined with portraits. The air smelled of plaster and damp wood, the marble floors slick beneath boots. Sunlight slanted through cracked windows, revealing dust moving in the light like breath. Several frames still hung, but some were empty, the canvases cut clean away. The faces are gone, he wrote, but the frames remain. At Stanton Hall, the grand marble staircase once carried dancers in silk and white gloves. After the doors closed, the steps no longer wore down. The banister grew dull under untouched polish. At the landing, a mirror leaned against the wall, darkened, its silver backing flaking. It returned reflections in fragments. In Charleston, a house on Meeting Street stayed sealed until 1898. A surveyor entered through a warped side door. The entry smelled of soot and old paper. A chandelier hung crooked. On the floor lay a cracked fan and a scattering of feathers. One door would not open, the hinges swollen. Behind it, faint scratching. The wind, or something else. In a Louisiana plantation opened decades later, a pair of boots still sat against the wall near the door, stiff with age. The leather collapsed. A ledger on a nearby console was opened to its final page. March 3rd, 1862. Delivery delayed. Trunk held upriver. The ink had blotted, the sentence unfinished. In Georgia, chalk drawings were found in a stairwell. Figures, initials, games scratched into plaster. Barely visible but still there when caught in the right light. No ledger recorded them. They were left by hands that no longer signed their names. Not all traces were so soft. In Alabama, during a 1905 restoration, workers found a hidden closet beneath the grand staircase. On the shelves sat dozens of bottles, their corks rotted, their glass clouded. When opened, the air filled with the faint scent of rosewater, citrus, and camphor. Sealed before the house was abandoned, forgotten, or deliberately hidden. These corridors were once filled with movement, servants carrying trays, laughter rising toward painted ceilings, tobacco curling in polished rooms. But when the homes emptied, the sound didn't echo. It stopped. The dust, untouched, became the most faithful archivist, recording where chairs once sat, where shoes once stepped, where a mirror once returned someone's face. To walk through these halls now is to feel the presence of what left, not violently, but deliberately. Objects remain, the life does not. At the end of one hallway, a door waits. Would you open it, or let the dust remain undisturbed, recording silence more carefully than any ledger ever did? In the summer of 1884, carpenters restoring a parlor in Savannah uncovered a long, narrow box wedged behind a cabinet. The wood was swollen, the lid warped, but inside was a fan, its ribs carved from rosewood, its leaf painted with ivory blossoms across a field of gold silk. The hinges opened with a soft sigh, as if air had been waiting inside. The fan still held warmth, the smoothness of polished wood worn by another hand, the silk stained faintly with perfume. When raised, it caught the light like breath. When closed, it clicked sharply, like punctuation at the end of an unspoken sentence. No inventory listed it, no name was recorded, but etched faintly into one rib were two letters, CV. Below them, in a different hand, deeper and more deliberate. Not hers truly. Why would someone mark it that way? Was it a denial, a correction, a quiet refusal to let the object bear her name? Fans were more than adornment, they were language. Held high, they signaled interest. Snapped shut, rejection. Moved in rhythm, they controlled the air and the conversation. In Charleston ballrooms, women spoke entire paragraphs in silence through them. Imagine the room it once opened in, chandeliers above, slippers against marble, the scent of champagne and candle wax. The fan fluttered in a woman's hand, sending cool air across flushed skin, sending messages to anyone watching closely enough to understand. And then imagine it hidden, folded, boxed, left behind a cabinet, not forgotten, but deliberately placed where no one would see. Objects like this endure in ways people do not. Gowns fade, names are crossed out, But a fan, once held and folded with care, still opens, still speaks. Would you keep it in the light, or fold it again, place it back in its box, and leave it where it waited? Not forgotten, just unspoken. In the Vicksburg archives, a household ledger from 1856 survives. Its pages browned and curled, the ink still legible. Among shipments of cotton and porcelain is a separate list, titled simply Linen and Garments, May 3rd. It begins with gowns, ivory silk with lace edging, 1. Green velvet, winter weight, 2. Summer muslin, Paris import, 3. The entries unfold like choreography. Petticoats follow, then corsets. Whalebone stays, 4. Embroidered with rosettes, 1. Even handkerchiefs are tallied, lace trimmed, 12. Plain linen, 6. No names appear, just garments, yet you can feel her there. The rustle of silk through hallways, the velvet's weight against winter air, the scent of lavender from pressed muslin folded in cedar drawers. Then comes a single line, out of rhythm. One gown, rose silk, initials CV, stitched at hem. No one in the family carried those initials. No letter mentions them. No guest matches. The gown appears only once, folded into the fabric of someone else's record. Was it sent by someone who never arrived, claimed by someone who never stayed, or hidden on purpose, kept in the closet but not in the story? The rose silk gown no longer exists. Its trail ends in thread. But you can imagine it, shimmering under gaslight, brushing against marble, the initials at its hem turned inward, stitched into the lining like a secret. Everything else in the list was folded, worn, remembered. This gown was noted and left behind. Would you go looking for it? And if you found it, initials intact, would you wear it into light? In the summer of 1862, Union forces advanced on Baton Rouge. The city shook with cannon fire, and flames consumed blocks of houses. Amid the chaos, one plantation on the outskirts was left half standing, its walls scorched, its roof collapsed, its parlor reduced to ash. Yet the library, curiously, remained. Witnesses later described the scene. The marble floor of the entry was littered with shards of porcelain, their blue patterns warped by heat. Iron hinges and melted brass locks lay in heaps where trunks had been stacked. A mirror leaned against the wall, its silver backing bubbled, no longer reflecting anything but firelight. The air stank of wet ash and burnt cedar, and through it all, a door stood intact. Behind it, the library survived. The books were blackened at their edges, but the shelves held. Leather spines cracked like dry skin, yet titles could still be read. Virgil, Voltaire, Dickens. Dust clung to them in thick coats, but they endured where silks, linens, and furniture had not. On the desk sat a ledger, its cover charred, its pages curled from heat. Opened carefully, it revealed an entry dated March 1862. The handwriting trembled as though rushed. 4 trunks removed, 1 missing. CV last recorded at River. No explanation follows. The line ends there, the ink darker than those above it, as if the pen pressed harder with urgency. Why did the fire stop at the library door? Did someone rush to save it? Was it coincidence or intention? To lose gowns, silver, trunks, that could be accepted as misfortune. But books? Books were proof of refinement, evidence of identity, signs of permanence. Their survival feels too deliberate to be chance. Imagine the air in that library after the flames died. The acrid bite of ash mixed with the musk of old leather, the sweetness of paper curling under heat. Step closer, and the faint trace of ink sharpens, metallic, sharp in the nose. To touch the ledger's pages was to feel them crumble. Yet one line endured, CV last recorded at River. Who carried the trunks toward the river? Were they intercepted, destroyed, lost to water? Did they reach their destination, only to disappear into another attic, another ledger, another silence? Among the ruins, only fragments of the other trunks were found. Buckles warped, charred fabric, scraps of lace fused to iron nails. The rose silk gown once recorded in Vicksburg's linen list. Could it have been inside? Or was it already gone by then? Stitched initials folded into fireproof absence. The fire left no answers, only a tension that lingers in the surviving books. To run your hand across their spines today is to feel the line between survival and erasure. The library remained, but everything else was consumed. Would you search the ashes for what was left? Would you pry open the blackened trunks, hoping for a scrap of cloth, a ribbon, a letter? Or would you close the door on the room that endured, leave the books to their silence, and accept that the fire took what it wanted? In 1863, a visitor to a half-abandoned house near Vicksburg wrote of a mirror so tall it reached nearly from the floor to the ceiling. Its gilt frame was carved with vines and cherubs, imported from Italy 2 decades earlier. But the glass had cracked during the siege, splitting down the center in a jagged seam. It reflects in halves, the visitor noted, never a whole. Imagine standing before it. Candlelight bends oddly, fractured into twin flames. Your face appears doubled, offset, as if one version of you lingers in another time. Step closer, and the silvering shows its age, black spots blooming like bruises, the edges cloudy, the center broken. It does not return a clear image. It returns a distorted memory. What did this mirror once hold? A ballroom alive with violins, chandeliers sparkling above silk gowns, gloves tapping against rosewood fans. The air filled with perfume and smoke, voices layered over the rustle of fabric, guests pausing on staircases to check their reflection, a final adjustment before entering the dance. The mirror caught it all, every glance, every step, every unspoken gesture. But when the war came, its work changed. Soldiers quartered in the hall leaned rifles against the gilded frame. Mud streaked the marble floor, and the mirror reflected not gowns, but boots caked in dirt. A visitor's diary from 1864 notes. One soldier scrawled his name in the dust across its surface. It remained visible weeks later. The mirror remembers, but imperfectly. It shows fragments, not fullness. A harp reflected in pieces. A chandelier multiplied into crooked stars. A woman's gown blurred into shadow where the silver has faded. A ledger might strike through a name with red ink. A mirror erases more subtly, reducing presence to distortion. In 1887, the cracked glass was finally removed from its frame. A carpenter who helped with the work wrote that when the mirror was lifted from the wall, the plaster behind it was marked with faint outlines, shadows where moisture had settled over decades. Human shapes? Perhaps. Or perhaps only stains. But he swore he saw the curve of a face in profile, as if the mirror had impressed its images into the wall itself. What is a mirror, if not another kind of ledger? Not words on a page, but light captured for an instant, then gone. Yet the glass remembers. Every flame, every face, every movement. Only now, the record is warped. Would you dare look into it, knowing it will not show you whole? Would you see yourself, or only fragments, distorted by cracks, multiplied into versions you do not recognize? And if, in the corner of that broken glass, you saw another face, someone not standing in the room, would you believe it was only reflection? Or would you accept that some surfaces never forget, even when names and ledgers fall silent? In 1892, an attic sale was held in Boston. Most of what was offered was ordinary: second-hand trunks, a stack of faded linens, a pair of chairs with broken legs. But among the lots was something unexpected: a fan. The catalog lists it briefly. One folding fan, rosewood, painted silk, blossoms faint. No provenance, no mention of where it came from. The fan, when unfolded, revealed blossoms painted across silk, their edges cracked, but still visible beneath a film of dust. The rosewood ribs gave off a faint fragrance when warmed by touch, as if the wood still held the memory of oils from long ago. Even the hinge opened smoothly, silk sighing as it spread, the sound soft as breath. Who had brought it to Boston? How had it traveled so far from the parlors of the South, where it had first opened in candlelight? No ledger explains. No name is attached. Only initials scratched faintly into its rib. CV. This fan had been seen before, hidden in a Savannah parlor, wedged behind a cabinet, boxed and left to wait. Yet here it was, decades later, across the country, sold without story. Was it the same fan, or another, marked by coincidence, with the same initials? If the first, who carried it north? If the second, how many such objects drift through time without memory, their significance erased except for a faint mark on wood? Imagine the hand that held it in its first life. A woman in rose silk, standing at the edge of a mirrored ballroom, the fan opening with a flick. The air smelled of beeswax and tobacco smoke, the warmth of bodies pressing close, the sharp sweetness of champagne poured into crystal flutes. She raised the fan, its blossoms flashing against candlelight, signaling words that need not be spoken: interest, refusal, command. Now imagine the moment at auction, the hall colder, air tinged with dust and coal smoke from Boston streets. The fan lifted from its box, blossoms dulled, the rosewood ribs scarred with initials. A man bid $3, another raised him by 2. The hammer fell at 5. The fan was carried away wrapped in brown paper, no longer a symbol in a dance, but a curiosity in another man's possession. What would you do if it were yours? Would you display it, blossoms turned outward, letting it catch the light of a room it was never meant to enter? Or would you keep it folded, hidden in a drawer, leaving it closed as it was for decades, its painted flowers pressed together in silence? And more, if you knew the initials tied it to a person whose name has vanished, would you protect it as memory? Or would you treat it as decoration, stripping it of its weight, letting it drift again into anonymity? The rosewood fan carries with it both presence and absence. To open it is to feel the air it once stirred, the movements it once signaled, the evenings it once commanded. To close it is to feel how much has already been lost. Would you keep it open or shut it away again? In 1910, carpenters repairing a crumbling house in Natchez broke through a wall that concealed a narrow door. Behind it was not a hidden staircase or secret passage, but a closet. The hinges groaned when opened. Inside, an entire wardrobe still waited. The air was heavy with the smell of cedar and damp cloth. Dresses hung from wooden pegs, their fabrics dulled but intact. Velvet stiff as bark, muslin yellowed at the folds, silk that shimmered faintly where the light touched. Shoes sat beneath them in neat rows, leather curled at the toes. Satin slippers collapsed like hollow shells. On a shelf above, stacks of linen, embroidered handkerchiefs, folded sheets, lace collars, some still wrapped in tissue. The paper had browned and fallen to dust at the edges, but the garments inside were untouched. The closet looked as though its owner had simply walked away. No inventory mentioned it. No ledger marked these gowns or linens. There was no note of their removal, no record of trunks packed or wardrobes shipped. Whoever had worn them had vanished from paper, but their presence lingered in cloth and thread. One gown in particular caught the carpenter's attention. Pale rose silk, with a hem stitched carefully in tiny white letters, CV. The initials had appeared before, in trunks, in ledgers, on a fan. Here they returned again, tucked away at the edge of a closet no one opened for nearly 50 years. Why had these clothes been hidden? To protect them from looters? To preserve them for a return that never came? Or to bury a life deliberately, sealing away its fabric and scent, along with its name? Imagine the sound when the gowns were touched, silk crackling like dry leaves. Imagine the weight of velvet lifted from its peg, heavy in the arms, smelling faintly of lavender even after decades. Picture the faint line of dust that marked where slippers once pressed against the floor, their owners never stepping back into them. The linen closet was a time capsule of silence, each garment a word unsaid, each handkerchief a line erased. Names absent from ledgers found their echo here, stitched into hems, woven into lace, folded into drawers that no one meant to open. Would you close the door again, leaving the garments untouched, preserving their stillness? Or would you unfold them, let the gowns breathe, risk breaking the silence they have carried for half a century? And if you found initials stitched where no name remained, would you speak them aloud or leave them whispered only in thread? In 1865, among the ruins of a plantation house outside Baton Rouge, a ledger was recovered from the ashes. Its leather cover was blackened, its edges curled, but the spine still held. Inside, the pages had survived enough to be read. Numbers marched in columns, bales shipped, debts tallied, crates received. But by the final section, order gave way to chaos. Lines were crossed out, names were reduced to initials. Some entries were scored with thick black ink, others trailed into silence mid-word. On the last page, faint but legible, one line stood out: CV unaccounted, trunk missing, do not pursue. No explanation followed, no record of who wrote it, no note in any archive matches the hand. And then, at the bottom of the page, an ink blot swallowed what might have been a final word. After that, nothing. Imagine opening that ledger today. The scent of char still clings to its pages. Ash falls when you turn a corner. The handwriting grows uneven, as if the writer's hand shook. Each line feels less like record and more like concealment, knowledge meant to be hidden in plain sight. And yet the ledger survived when so much else was burned. What does it mean for a name to appear only in fragments, on a fan, on a hem, on a trunk, in a ledger, and then vanish? Was CV erased by choice, or by fire, or by fear? How many others were reduced to initials, recorded not as people, but as hints, shadows, letters meant to fade? The final ledger does not give answers. It offers only silence framed by ink. Would you close the book after that last line, leaving the mystery intact? Or would you keep searching, following initials through attics, auctions, and ashes, knowing each answer will lead to another absence? If you've walked with me through these rooms, from the trunk in Natchez, to the unlit ballroom, to the fan returned in Boston, and now to this final ledger, tell me, what do you think the truth of CV was? Write your thoughts in the comments. Would you open her trunk? Would you break the wax on her letters? Or would you leave them sealed. If this story held you, like the ledger's last page held its silence, make sure you like this video, subscribe to History's Ledger, and share your thoughts below. It keeps these echoes alive, and it helps us keep turning the fragile pages together. And when this book closes, another begins. In the next story, we leave the parlors of Natchez and step into the frontier. Dust, sweat, and cattle replace satin and marble. A different battle unfolds, not over wealth and ledgers, but over survival itself. Hygiene was scarce, disease was constant. Cowboys and settlers fought not just one another, but the dirt that clung to every trail. The next chapter of History's Ledger, the strange battle between cowboys and hygiene. Would you have endured it, or would the dirt itself have been your greatest enemy?